My name is Stephanie. This is my son Maxson, and we live in Richmond, Texas. Maxson was first diagnosed at 4 months old. His initial diagnosis was plagiocephaly and torticollis, and they had some concerns about his muscle tone being, with him being hypertonic at the time, and it caused some deformity, malformation of his cranium and facial structures. As he's developed, Maxson has continued to have delays in his physical development, both with physical therapy skills, those gross motor skills, and with occupational therapy, those fine motor skills. Our goal for Maxson with the occupational therapy is to get as close to being developmentally appropriate and on level as is within his capacity. He sometimes will have accidents with the restroom because he's got on a pair of pants that buttons instead of snaps. Tying shoes, we've had to make some accommodations for that with elastic shoelaces. We work very closely with our pediatrician, and his current diagnosis is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You can watch him. The impulsivity, the inability to focus and attend a task is definitely a disability that combines with the fine motor disabilities. And so to struggle with this behavior on a daily basis, on an ongoing basis, without the support of the occupational therapy, I can't begin to explain to you how frustrating that is. Being on the wait list is incredibly frustrating, especially since it's not the first time that we are experiencing the wait list. I know. Part of the issue and part of the discussion with the pediatrician is that Maxson was adopted, and we don't have all of the information on his genetic history, his biological history. And so without that piece of information as part of the puzzle, we don't know what the prognosis is. We don't know if we're going to get worse, if we're going to get better. We just have to take this day to day. We initiated occupational and physical therapy services when Max was 4 to 5 months old through early childhood intervention, at which point he turned age 3. We transitioned to the services that we're in are trying to gain now with MedCare, and we were on a wait list for several months before we were able to get occupational, physical, and speech therapy for him. And those wait lists were anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on what the service was. I have complained to the MCO about being on the wait list. Unfortunately, they did not offer any support whatsoever other than just to apologize for the inconvenience and the frustration of being on the wait list. I was not aware that by law the state had to provide services to my child. That's not something that was ever communicated to me by any therapist or any organization that we've worked with the therapy, or the schools for that matter. And I find that's part of the issue, is the lack of communication among the organizations that you have to work with to gain the therapies that your child needs. It makes me angry, and the fact that elected officials, the fact that a human person who is in charge of a budget that impacts children or the services that a child can access would make a decision to take the money away from a child who needs the therapy and the services that money paid for. It makes it very obvious. It makes me angry, but then it also makes it very obvious and very clear to me that they've not experienced a child with a disability themselves personally. I can't believe that someone who is either living with or has had personal contact with a child with any kind of disability, regardless of the severity, would agree to take money away from the therapies that those children need access to. Yes, I did know that I can call my legislators on the local level, on the state level, and the federal level. I actually have made phone calls to the state level and have not been able to get anyone on the phone. The phone rings and rings and rings and rings some more, and no one ever answers the phone. Letters have been written, emails have been sent, and no response has been returned. So I don't know quite what to say to that, other than evidently the constituents' concerns are not of great importance to the legislators. It is such a frustrating process to know that you're happy with the therapists that are working with your children, and yet you lose those not by choice, under the circumstances, and funding is a big issue for that. The money that needs to be budgeted to compensate the therapists for the services they provide has been cut, continues to be cut, and the children are suffering as a result of that. By law, my child has to go to school, has to be in attendance in school. He's being punished because he has to go to school and he can't access the therapies he needs as a result. That's the best way I can put that. If the budget's cut, the money's not there. And if the money's not there, then there's no way to compensate the therapists that provide the services. If they did pick up the phone, I would explain to them what our situation has been. I know that they have concerns about the foster care system. I've adopted 3 children out of the foster care system, so I'm contributing to a remedy for one of the problems that they have concerns about. I'm trying to grow those children into productive and contributing members of society who will also be their constituents. They should have some concerns about how those children grow and develop and how much they're able to contribute to the society around them. Because of the budget cuts, I'm very worried that we will remain on the wait list and not have a therapist. I'm hopeful that with summer coming, with school ending and summer coming, that we're going to be able to secure a therapist. But I am hopeful with the understanding that it may be a temporary situation just for the summer, and then once school starts again next August, we very likely would lose that therapist again and be right back in the same situation. Without the therapies, my hands are tied. I can only do so much. I can only research so much. I can do a lot of things as a teacher, but I am not licensed or certified as a therapist to be able to provide the services that our OTs, PTs, and SLPs can provide.